One of my friends called it the scariest show on television right now. I haven't had nightmares this vivid in a really long time. It's one of the best examples of cosmic horror I've seen in a while, and the show is HBO's Chernobyl. Welcome to the Eldritch collection. My name is Aaron Peterson, and I will be your curator. Chernobyl is a 5-part miniseries streaming on HBO. You can see all the episodes right now. Its creator is Craig Mazin, and he's best known for the Hangover sequels. It's directed by Johan Rennick. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the last name correctly. And he's best known for commercials and music videos. Everything I knew about the show going in seemed to suggest that it didn't belong in the cosmic horror genre. But for me, when it comes to cosmic horror, it's not so much when I see it, it's when I feel it. So what is cosmic horror? I would say cosmic horror is an emotion somewhere between existential dread and the fear of the unknown. It's a way to experience insanity as a form of entertainment. It's any story that makes the audience acutely aware of how small they are and how dangerous the world can be for creatures so insignificant. Chernobyl is cosmic horror. To start, the series at many times looks and feels like a modern horror film. There are muted colors and haunting expanses. If not for all the Soviet iconography, you could have taken any shot from this series and put it into any other modern horror film, such as The Witch. Also, the sound design, which is brilliant, fits in perfectly within the genre. If radiation is the monster, then there are few snarls and growls as unnerving as a Geiger counter. Each time a person has to risk their life in this series, the ubiquitous sound just keeps ratcheting up, just raising the anxiety to whole new levels. Just it's like that sound can also be heard throughout the music, especially during the credits of each episode. There's just a subtle motif of that Geiger. I don't know, is it a sound? Is it a beat? Is it a click? But it's there. Lastly, there's the gore, and I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. The faces, or lack thereof, of many of the victims of this disaster were devastating. The makeup artist described how he was doing research for the miniseries and how he came to the conclusion that dying of radiation sickness was probably the worst way to die. The horror of their fate is compounded when the main character gives a cold, clinical description of what's happening to them on a molecular level. As you see these men dying on their hospital beds, you can remember him telling you that not even morphine can ease their suffering, which you can only imagine to be immense. The horror of seeing their faces is doubled down on further by the fact that you know this actually happened. Their irradiated bodies are still entombed in lead coffins and under feet of concrete, and the threat that their bodies present will remain for thousands of years. The sounds and images of Chernobyl clearly harken to horror tropes, but what about cosmic horror? Once you can see something, you can start to understand it, and the horror will start to fade as our mind makes sense of it all. However, the scale and power of nuclear disasters are terrifying in a way that's difficult to truly wrap your head around. At the beginning of episode 4, a soldier is trying to persuade an old woman to leave her farmhouse. A farmhouse that she's lived on her entire life. She has seen the Tsar's troops, she's seen Nazis, she's seen the Red Rebellion, she's seen so many things, and she asks the soldier, why should I leave now for something I can't see? And that's the thing about nuclear radiation, is that you can't see it. And you can't notice the effects until it's too late, when faces start to literally melt off, when birds fall out of the sky, when people start dying by the thousands of cancer. And it goes beyond just not being able to see the nuclear radiation. It goes to the fact that it's just hard for people to understand its true significance. And the fact that the bureaucrats of the Soviet Union acted so slowly and so carelessly in the shadow of all this power is both maddening and terrifying in its own right. When a scientist tells you that the area won't be safe for 24,000 years. 24,000 years. The pyramids were built 4,500 years ago. So that's nearly 5 times as long. I mean, can you wrap your head around that? Where will we be as a society in 1,000 years, in 500 years, in 20 years? It's hard to know. So imagining 24,000 years? I know that that scale isn't necessarily scientifically cosmic, but it is so long that if you actually stop and think about it, it drives you crazy. It's just mind-boggling. And then there's also just the power behind all of it. Not just the scale of time, but the scale of just how charged these rods of uranium are, that they can burn for days, that they can melt through concrete, that they can poison entire continents. It gave me shivers throughout the entire series. And that pit I got in my stomach, that's that feeling when I realize this is Lovecraftian. This is Eldritch. This is cosmic horror. This disaster makes me feel small. It makes me feel insignificant. And it makes me feel scared about, how close do I live to a nuclear reactor? And would that even matter? The haunting music, the horrific images, and the mind-shattering scale of the disaster all culminate in a miniseries that was expertly crafted, beautifully acted, and incredibly well written. I highly recommend HBO's Chernobyl, especially if you love the cosmic horror genre. I'll see you next week for another episode of the Eldritch Collection. If you've enjoyed this content and want to see the channel grow, please consider liking, subscribing, all the good YouTube things. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.